Did you miss your deadline to renew your Medicaid coverage? You can still send your completed annual review form to Healthy Connections Medicaid. You may be assigned to another health plan, but you can ask to come back to First Choice within 60 days of renewed Medicaid eligibility. It's your family. It's your choice. First Choice is the right choice. Renew and choose us. Visit selecthealthofsc.com/renew to learn more.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the SB Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm RD Flying Solo. Today, we're going to recap Week 7, the top performers at each position. Then we're going to get into some, waiver wire chat, and then we'll talk about the Bucs and Bills game coming up Thursday night. So let's just jump right into it, right? I know we don't have a lot of time today. We're trying to work this in. We haven't done a show in a while, so we're just trying to drop some content to you. And it's Week 7. We're about to be in Week 8. We need to get more fantasy. It's fantasy all the time. Anyway, back at it. Looking at the QB position, the top performance, no surprise here. Pat Mahomes dropped a 50-burger on the Chargers, 50.10 to be exact. 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, 424 yards, had a hell of a day. He should be doing this. This is why you probably draft him in the first or second round in some leagues. Now, obviously, there's some leagues where you don't go and pick him up in the very first round just because you either go, you go stud receiver, stud running back or something like that, and then you try to find some value. But this is, if you picked him in the first, second round, this is what you got him for because you want 50 points a week. Amazing performance. He should be here every single week, to be honest with you. Lamar Jackson finally showed up, 47.45 points. He threw for 357 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, tacked on another 36 rushing yards. I meant to mention that for Mahomes. He put on 29 as well. I mean, this same thing with Lamar, right? He's got the talent to do it. He showed up and put it on Detroit. If I have to hear any more about how great Detroit's defense is or any of that stuff with Allen, I'm going to lose my mind because all I'm going to do is just pull up these stats and be like, here you go. Listen, Detroit, yeah, they're an okay team. They're a good team. But, boy, Lamar came out and just toasted their ass. Moving on, Gardner Minshew making a top 5 appearance here. Played Cleveland, a real tough defense. He ended up throwing 2 touchdowns, 1 interception for 305 yards. He scored 38.15 fantasy points. Now, these points are from Yahoo Fantasy. That's where most of my leagues take place, to be honest with you. I do have one ESPN league. It's a cousin league, a family league that I'm in. And I don't even like going over there. But anyhow, number 4, Josh Allen. He put up 30.95 points, threw 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 265 yards. I every week expect him to be either in first or second, depending on how Mahomes did, right? For him to be in like the 4th, 5th, 6th position, he's got so much talent around him. I don't know what's going on up there in Buffalo. I have no idea. And we're actually going to talk about that game later coming up. The 5-hole, Kirk Cousins, 30.80 points. He threw for 378 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception. Now, Kurt was balling last night. They beat San Francisco, which is wild to say the least. I mean, there's some Purdy haters out there. I mean, I know they didn't have Deebo Samuel, and they didn't have their, I think, left tackle, if I'm not mistaken, as well. But San Francisco's still a good team. Their defense is still good. And look, I mean, Cousins dropped 22 on them and said, hey, y'all have a good night. I'm out of here. Some honorable mentions, part of the 30 club this week, Tyrod Taylor. The Giants played to Washington. And Tyrod threw 2 touchdowns, 279 yards. Nothing to, look away from, and nothing to snub your nose at or anything like that. Now, I am kind of shocked that the next person up is Hurts. Like, Jalen Hurts should be top 3 every single week. Now, I understand it, week to week, whatever, right? But they were playing Miami. It should have been a boat race. You know what I'm saying? It was 31-17. The defense, Philly's defense just tore up Tua. I mean, Tua still did okay, but nothing close. Now, granted, Tua has not played well against a team that is above 500. I don't think they've beat a team that is above 500 balls. So that's something to keep throw that in the back of your memory box there. A big brain on you. So yeah, I mean, really good play by the quarterbacks. Really enjoyed it. We're going to move on over to the wide receivers. Now, Addison, he was the absolute beneficiary of Kirk Cousins' wild-ass day against San Francisco, right? He, 7 receptions, 123 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have a 40-yard reception, so you get some extra points on that. He had 10 targets, 10 freaking targets, which was amazing, right? So, I mean, he probably won you your Monday night. If you were needing a Monday night miracle and you had him dialed up, congratulations. You probably won. A.J. Brown up for Philly next, 31.70 points. He actually had 15 targets in this game, had 10 receptions, 137 yards, 1 TD, and a 40-yard reception. So, I mean, that's nothing. I think that's pretty damn solid from him, and I expect that. Top 5 performance every week. Why not? I don't get why not, Tyreek Hill coming in third, 25.80. He had 15 targets as well. 11 receptions, 88 yards, 1 touchdown. He did have another touchdown pass that they called back for holding. He was having a pretty good game, but then all of a sudden Philly's D was just all over Tua. He had a tough time. He was under pressure a lot. And then number 5, we're going to talk about this kid a little bit later today. Downs out of Indianapolis had 6 targets, 5 receptions, 125 yards. He had a hell of a play right down to, I remember, because they were talking about the Cleveland defense and how great they were and whatnot. Then all of a sudden Minshew drops back and just throws this beautiful shot down the right field. Downs catches it, just takes off, goes to town. So he did really good. And then Nakua, he came in at 23.40. Amal-Ra, 23.20. Mike Evans, 22. Then so on and so forth. Something to keep an eye on too, Palmer. He had 20.30 points, 5 receptions for 133 yards. That's pretty nice. Pretty nice for a guy that most likely wasn't drafted. I mean, unless you're in a deep league, I guess. But, if you picked him up. And I do want to mention that I'm starting to see Courtland Sutton make his move into actually scoring some freaking points, right? He had a touchdown today, or Sunday, excuse me. 6 receptions for 76 yards. He actually had 6 targets, so he caught every one that was thrown to him. So good on him. Moving on. Let's go check out the running backs. Now, you won't believe this when I tell you. I mean, you probably already know. If you watch football on Sunday, you know exactly what I'm going to say is number 1. I mean, he had 3 damn touchdowns. Deontay Foreman for Bears running back. They just beat up on Vegas. I mean, just went to pound town. He had 16 rushing attempts, 89 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also caught 3 balls for 31 yards and a touchdown. He was targeted 5 times. With Khalil Herbert going down. Now, you're always kind of leery, I guess, because Foreman's been the front man before, then hasn't performed. But this week, if you put him in, you absolutely clobbered with 33 points. Congratulations. Congratulations is definitely in order. Alvin Kamara, number 2 this week on a Thursday night game. Was it Thursday night? I'm pretty sure it was Thursday night against Jacksonville. Saints ended up losing, but Kamara clocked in 29.30 points, 17 rushing attempts, 62 yards. Now he did, I think he snagged a ball or 2, if I'm not mistaken. I don't even see what's going on here. Oh, 12 receptions for 91 yards. There you go. He was targeted 14 times. So if you have him, you picked him up, you probably drafted him a little bit late. You're getting great value on him. I mean, he is a target magnet right now, and he is doing really well in PPR leagues. What are you going to do? Jahmyr Gibbs. Why did I say Jahmyr? Jahmyr Gibbs. He finished 3rd with 27.60 points, 11 attempts, 68 yards. He had a touchdown. He finally got in the end zone. He did have 9 receptions for 58 yards. He was targeted 10 times. So that's something, I know Montgomery was out this week, so they said they were going to lean heavily on Gibbs, and they did. What was crazy is that Detroit was blown out of the water, 38-6. It was crazy. I don't know what going forward, what they're going to do, especially with Montgomery coming back. He's not going to have this kind of production going forward, but it was a hell of a week to start him just because of with Montgomery being out, and they came out and said, we're going to lean on him. But it was a lot of garbage time points scored in that game. A lot of garbage time points. Moving on with Gus Edwards, 23.40 points. He had 64 yards. He did have one reception for 80 yards. It was a massive play. It was crazy. ETN finished at 22.70 points, 14 attempts for 53 yards. He had 2 touchdowns, 2 freaking touchdowns, tacked on 3 other receptions for 24 yards. You know who I'm surprised didn't really make it in the top 5 this week? There's 2 people, I suppose. CMC and Jonathan Taylor. Now, they weren't terrible. You're talking 22.60 points for McCaffrey and 21 points for Taylor. But I know Taylor's coming back, and they're still kind of splitting Moss in there a little bit, but now listen, I know Taylor was running up against Cleveland defense, which is very tough, but McCaffrey had just a rough night. Now, I wouldn't say garbage time because they were in the game the whole time, but he did okay. He had a crazy fumble within, I think it was inside the 10-yard line. And, they were looking at it like, oh, no, I'm like, his ball was definitely out. His whole body was in the air, and that ball was out. So, but, I mean, CMC is your number one running back going forward. He's going to be Mr. Reliability. That's the reason you draft him probably 101 or 102, just depending on who you're drafting with and if they wanted to get cute and pick somebody else. But yeah, I think Taylor's going to be your guy as well going forward. They keep easing him in, and he keeps getting more and more touches. 18 attempts for Taylor, 75 yards. He also caught 3 balls for 45 yards out of the backfield. So there you go. Not bad. Moving on. Tight ends. This will probably be pretty short and sweet, to be honest with you. Now, I do have a tight end on the waiver wire, chat here coming up here shortly. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. I mean, when is Travis Kelce not the number one tight end? 37.90 points. He had 12 receptions for 179 yards and a touchdown. 12 receptions, 179 freaking yards. Bonkers. I mean, he outscores receivers. I mean, he is the receiver out there in Kansas City. Everyone else is just kind of like, hanging out, not really doing much. Big shout out to Darren Waller this week. He got 22.80 points, 7 receptions on 98 yards and 1 touchdown. They finally, hey, you know what? We need to utilize this big guy. He was awesome in Vegas. I mean, I think it was Oakland back when he was there. I think he was a part of the Vegas team after they moved. I love Darren Waller, along with Travis Kelce as well. And then number 3, Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews is always going to be a top 3. I mean, unless it's some crazy week or Lamar's hurt or something like that. But he scored you 22.30 points, 4 receptions, 63 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not a lot of targets for him this week. He got 6, but I mean, he made the most of it. But they were working with Zay Flowers a lot this week, and he got a lot of action. TJ Hawkinson, he coming up in the 4-hole, 19.60 points, 11 receptions for 86 yards. He had 12 targets, which is, I mean, you're talking, that's Kelce numbers right there. He's an automatic lock start every single week when you got him. Next up, finishing up the top 5, we're looking at Dallas Goedert, 18.70 points, 5 receptions on 77 yards, and 1 TD. If I'm talking really fast, I'm sorry. Just trying to get through this and make it as quick and compact as you can take it. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. Honorable mention here, we got a couple of them. Taysom Hill with 16.80 points and Kincaid, 15.50 points. Kincaid had eight targets, and he caught every one of them. Just want to tell you that because we're going to talk about him in a little bit. And if you care, kickers. I mean, I care. They can win you a game. They can lose you a game, but they can win you a game. This week was fun. You had Dustin Hopkins, Cleveland kicker, scored 26 points for you, with that 39-38 win over at Indianapolis. Next up was Will Lutz, 18 points. And then Younghoe Koo, walk-off kick, won it for Atlanta there. You got 15 points. Ryland, 14 points. Group A, Blake Group A, New Orleans kicker. I don't even know his name, like how to pronounce it. I know his name, but I don't know how to pronounce it. 13 points. Another surprise here. Justin Tucker finishing outside the top 5 and only scoring 9 points. It's probably because they were Baltimore got in the end zone every single freaking play. So there you go. And last but not least, the defense. Whether you care or not, here we go. Baltimore, shockingly, put up 22 points, number 1 this week, held Detroit to 6 freaking points. A very high-powered offense, allegedly, which is not allegedly. They actually do have a really good offense. 22 points, held them to 6. So they scored you 22 points. They might have even help you with your dub this week. Chicago. I saw everybody going towards Vegas and picking up Vegas. I was like, Chicago, not terrible defense, and Vegas is not that great. Jimmy G's hurt. Let's see what's going on. 17 points. Cleveland got you 17 as well against Indianapolis. The Giants shocked the world with 17 points against Washington. They got to win too. And that's going to do it. I mean, everything else is below 15 points. We'll say Philly and Seattle, they got 14 apiece, There you go. There's your applause, folks. So, yeah, I mean, another wild week of football, tons of upsets, tons of crazy plays, big plays. It was a perfect day to sit on the couch and watch. I had the red zone up the whole time. Now, I had the other TV on for the local game because I did want to watch the Baltimore Detroit game. It's not local here, but the Cowboys on a bye week, so they were putting it on. I don't know if you want to go ahead and talk about the Tampa Bay Buffalo game. No, you know what? No. Let's go ahead. We're going to dial up. I'm going to show you something real quick. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you for watching, first off. And then two, I'm going to show the graphic. If you're listening on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you what's on the graphic. I don't know why it looks like that. Why does it look like that? There we go. That's what we're looking for. Now, here's your perfect lineup for week 7. If you had these guys, awesome. Congratulations. You nailed it. You nailed it. Lamar Jackson, 33.9 points. Deontay Foreman, 33.0. Kamara, 29.3. Addison, 31.3. A.J. Brown, 29.7. Travis Kelce, 35.9. Hopkins, 21.0 as your kick position. And you had the Bears, 17. There you go. That's your perfect lineup. I like the perfect and the imperfect lineup. I like to bring both of them to the table. Just couldn't find the imperfect this week. But, there's a ton of players that sucked. You just pick. They don't suck. They're really good at football. That's why they're in the NFL. But fantasy-wise, they just didn't do what they were supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? And for waiver wires, let's go ahead and talk about that real quick. I hate that this camera focuses. If I move around too much, this camera focuses in and out. Waiver wire, what I'm going to actually go after, and I'm willing to waste a claim on or use a claim on or some fab bucks or whatever, it's got to be Darrell Henderson. 25% rostered in most leagues. He scored you 13 points this past week in PPR. Kyron Williams and Ronnie Rivers, they're both officially on the IR. So this is going to be your guy. They're going to lean on him. He got back into football shape. He got the call, and he was ready in a week. Within a week, he was ready to go. So for me, that's who I'm going for at first. Hey, moving on. Next, we're going to go tight end. We just talked about him. Now, Dalton Kincaid for Buffalo. He's 45% rostered. Got you 11.5 PPR points this week. The reason that I'm saying going after him, and probably everybody else under the sun is saying go after Kincaid, is because Dawson Knox is actually going to have wrist surgery. We don't know how long he's going to be out, but let's just say 4 to 6 weeks. It's surgery, and it's on his wrist. So go get this guy. He's going to be available in most of your leagues. If you've been streaming tight ends or you have a really weak tight end, this could be a plug and you're done. This could be your guy every single week, to be honest. Next up, most people have him. He's rostered in 65% of leagues. I get it, but it's not rostered in 100%. It's Kareem Hunt. Jerome Ford went down with an ankle injury. He scored you 15.10 PPR points. It's Kareem Hunt, right? He actually came in the game. He was a little hurt himself, a little banged up. So that's why you got a lot of Pierre Strong. But, Kareem Hunt's going to be your starter this week. He's no doubt about it, right? He's going to get you a ton of points. He's proven. He was valid with Nick Chubb starting the game. You could put Kareem Hunt in, and he was your PPR guy. If you're PPR. But even if you're in standard league, it's Kareem Hunt. If you were smart enough to pick him up or you had a little bit of a hunch or something like that, you went ahead, stashed him. He's worth the stash. I would say at this point, Pierre Strong's worth the stash, just to kind of, if you have an open spot and you're, taking chances on guys, but you just, not giving up a lot for him, you're just kind of picking up. I would pick up Pierre Strong as well. He's only in 1% of leagues. He's only 1% of leagues rostered. Put him, stash him, keep him. Next up, Josh Downs for the Colts, 21.00 PPR points. He led the team in targets, receptions, and yards this week. He's outpacing Pittman at this point. This kid is awesome. And when I was talking about that play earlier, he had an amazing run. He is so damn fast. He's got great hands. He looks great out there. I don't know how much I'm willing to spend, like say fab bucks on him, but I'm going to waste a waiver claim on him. And I don't say waste. I don't know why I say the word waste, but I'm using my waiver claim to try to pick him up. And because you start looking down the road and you start thinking maybe playoff push. And if you have him as your wide receiver 3 or your flex, I think you're going to be okay. Last but not least, this is just kind of like Chuba Hubbard's probably picked up in your league, right? But Miles Sanders is not the starter out there. He even came out. The coach was like, hey, no, we're not naming him the starter. We're not naming him the RB1. It will be kind of a running back by committee type thing, but I think Chuba Hubbard is the guy, to be honest. And if you can pick him up, he's rostered in quite a bit of leagues. I think it was like 50 or 55%, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have it on me. I'm sorry. I apologize. Look it up on your phone or your computer and see if he's available. Go get him. But yeah, I mean, he should have been picked up 2 weeks ago when Miles Sanders went down. If no one in your league picked him up, he's definitely worth the pickup and a stash and just hold on to him. And he's probably going to be your flex going forward, depending on the size of the league you're in. Now, if you're in an 8-man league, you probably don't need to watch a lot of videos on what's going on because you got all studs. You're just picking the best stud out of that league. Anyhow, let's move on to the Bucs and Bills. Now, with this game, you got the Bucs traveling up to Buffalo to play on Thursday night. Some of these Thursday night games have been hit or miss, right? I mean, I'm going to watch, right? It's Baker Mayfield. It's Josh Allen. You got amazing playmakers on both sides of the ball. If you're looking at this, if you're looking at your roster here and you're like, who am I playing? Who am I not playing? I'm playing everybody. I don't really see why not. You know, if I have Rachaad White, I'm playing Rachaad White. Why did I say that weird? Is there something wrong with Rachaad White? Why am I saying something? Something sounds weird right here. Now Baker, he's probably not your starter, right? He's only rostered in 32% of the league. So I'm not starting him unless you're in like a super flex league. Yeah, send it. You have 2 quarterbacks. You're throwing him in the other spot. Mike Evans will be an absolute freaking start. There's no question about it. And I think right now for the season total, he's got 30 receptions, 468 yards, 4 touchdowns. So he's going to get his. Now, Godwin is someone I'm actually trying to go after. He's rostered in 94% of leagues. I might be trying to buy low on Godwin right now. He was getting a lot of targets in last game, but they were just bad throws. Skip to him and stuff like that. Baker was under a lot of pressure. So, you know, Evans has scored 100 points this year in fantasy. Godwin scored 75. So Godwin has 30. He actually has more receptions than Mike Evans. He has 33 receptions, but he's got less yards, 398. Excuse me. The same amount of targets, 49. But people are kind of down on Godwin right now. So I think this would be the time that I would kind of try to work out a trade. I would go for him. Like, this is when I'm like, hey, let's do it. And again, for White, you know, he's probably going to be your RB2. You know, if anything, flex, you're going to play him. Now, with Buffalo, I mean, I don't know who's going to win this game, to be honest. I don't know what's going to happen. Buffalo's look so wild ass. You know what? We'll talk about that in a second. Let's actually flip over to Buffalo. Let's take a look at their guys. I mean, obviously, Josh Allen is their number one. He scored 204 fantasy points. He's an auto start. You drafted him in the first 2-3 rounds because that's who you wanted. Stephon Diggs, auto start, 156 points. You know, Diggs has 55 receptions for 678 yards and 6 TDs. He's performing pretty well. I would say pretty well. Now, Cook finally turned it on. He looked great last week. He got himself a touchdown. Versatile back. Looks great out there. He scored you 90 points so far this season. He's rushed for 419 yards and a touchdown. Caught 17 balls for another 186 yards and a touchdown. So he's definitely worth the start. This is where it gets a little dicey. I don't know if I'm starting Gabe Davis unless I need him in a flex position. He's not one of my 3 receivers or 2 receivers that I'm using, but you know, he's getting action. He scored 4 touchdowns. He's got 22 receptions for 345 yards. But I don't know. I think it's just some inconsistency there. He's always rostered, though. He's like 91% rostered. And as I mentioned before, Kincaid, he's getting the start. I'm putting him in. I'm going after him on my waiver claim. I hope I get him. I'm going to start him. He's locked and loaded. You know, with Knox being out with a wrist injury, he's going to be good to go. Now, he's only scored 44 points this year, but yeah, I mean, he's been a tight end 2 there, right? So he's already proved that he's going to be the guy. He caught himself a touchdown this past week. And then looking at the game overall, what do I expect? You know, 2 decent defenses. You might have, you know, kind of a low scoring game, maybe a 17-14 game, but should be plenty of yards, plenty of receptions, checkdowns. It doesn't really matter who these teams play. They still perform fantasy wise. And that's what you're looking for, right? So like I mentioned, you know, for Bucs, I'm going Evans, Godwin for sure, White in the flex position. But then if I'm looking at, you know, obviously the Bills, you know, Allen, yeah, auto start. Diggs, auto start. Cook, auto start. Gabe Davis, if you got to have him in the flex, you got to throw something up there, maybe a big play to break that game open. So, I mean, maybe 60 yards and a touchdown on like maybe 2 or 3 receptions, if I had to guess. And then obviously Kincaid. I think Kincaid's going to get a lot of action this week. I expect him to put up, I would say, about 15 fantasy points. I mean, why not? A touchdown. That's the other touchdown of the night. Yeah. But, you know, like I said, these guys, they're auto starts except for Davis. Davis and possibly a flex position, but you don't really use a flex on a Thursday night unless you have no choice. And your other guys are definitely going to play. No injury designation. I don't know why I can't talk. I don't know why I can't talk tonight. But anyways, yeah, there you go. It's going to be another great weekend of football. I'm going to try to come back on Sunday morning, do a little live stream. If not, I'll do another video before, a little start sit or something. We're going to start hammering out some content, get you guys and gals what you want, what you need. What you probably want is less me, but what you're going to get is more me. So thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you being part of this podcast. Thanks for watching, being a part of the YouTube channel. If you're listening to this on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to your podcast, thank you so much. I'm RD. This is SB Fantasy Football. We'll see you next time.
Did you miss your deadline to renew your Medicaid coverage? You can still send your completed annual review form to Healthy Connections Medicaid. You may be assigned to another health plan, but you can ask to come back to First Choice within 60 days of renewed Medicaid eligibility. It's your family. It's your choice. First Choice is the right choice. Renew and choose us. Visit selecthealthofsc.com/renew to learn more.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.